Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Omar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, reported, once while the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was seated, he laughed so that his back teeth showed. And Omar, may God be pleased with him, said, "My father and mother be your ransom, Ya Rasulullah. What makes you laugh?" The Prophet said, "Two men from my ummah fell on their knees before the Lord of power, and one of them said, 'O Lord, let this one take restitution for me for the way he has wronged me.' And God, great and glorious, said, 'Make restitution to your brother for the way you have wronged him.' And he said, 'O Lord, I have no good deeds left.' So God said to the petitioner, 'How will you deal with your brother, since he has no good deeds left?' And that one said, 'O Lord, let him relieve me of some of my burden of sin.' Then the messenger of God began to weep, may peace and blessings be upon this tearful one, and said, 'What a mighty day that will be, when people will need others to relieve them of their burdens.' He went on to say, 'So God, great and glorious, said to the one who had been wronged, "Lift your eyes and look into paradise." And he said, "O Lord, I see cities of silver and palaces of gold decorated with pearls. For which prophet, which righteous one, or which martyr is this?" The Lord, great and glorious, said, "This belongs to whoever can afford it." And he said, "O Lord, who could ever afford this?" Allah said, "You can afford it. But how, O Lord?" And God answered, "By forgiving your brother." The man said, "O Lord, I have already forgiven him." So God, great and glorious, said, "Then take your brother by the hand and lead him into paradise." At this, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Fear God and make peace among yourselves, because God, may he be blessed and exalted, will make peace among the faithful on the day of resurrection." This remarkable moving hadith shows the Prophet himself moved in the span of a few moments to both laughter and tears. This illustrates the softness of his heart, the depth to which he felt emotions, and the ease with which he expressed them. This hadith, which starts with the Prophet's laughter, to which Sayyidina Umar asks, "What is it that makes you laugh, Ya Rasulullah?" He says, "My father and mother be your ransom," which is a phrase that the Arabs used to say to indicate the immense love they had for someone. And the Prophet interestingly says, "Two men from my community fell on their knees before the Lord of power." The subtle point here is that the Prophet actually tells this story as if it's in the past tense. Two men from my community fell on their knees before the Lord of power, not in the future as if they will on Yawm al-Qiyamah, which shows profoundly the Prophet witnessed what would occur as if it had already occurred. He was given the ability to see, to witness, to know future events, including events in the next world. Now, this beautiful story is a story about two men, one who wronged another, one who oppressed another. They come before Allah, and the one who is wronged is asking for justice. And Allah asks him, "What would you like?" And he says, "Let me have some of his good deeds." Allah answers him that the man has no more good deeds. which most likely means that this man had wronged a number of people and that he had already had all his good deeds wiped out by those encounters. One of the features of Yawm al-Qiyamah that the Prophet has informed us is that those who are wronged by someone, they will receive the good deeds of that person in their scale. Thus, someone who does good deeds but wrongs many people will be bankrupt of good deeds on that day. So likely this man had already had his good deeds taken from others, and so he comes before God and he has nothing to give this man that he wronged. Allah then asks him, "So how will you deal with your brother?" And the man says, "Let him take some of my bad deeds." Interestingly, Allah doesn't answer that. He doesn't say yes or no. In fact, what he says is, "Look into the garden." He gives him a glimpse into paradise. And the man is so overwhelmed with its beauty and with its bliss and with its extraordinary reality that he asks Allah, "Who does this belong to? It must belong to a prophet or to a martyr or to one of the greatest people that ever lived." And Allah says it belongs to whoever can afford it. And the man looks at it and says, who could afford this? It's too precious, it's too valuable, it's worth infinitely more than all the wealth in this world. And Allah informs him, "You can afford it." And he said, "How could I ever afford it?" He said, "By forgiving your brother." And so the man says, "Oh Allah, I've already forgiven him." And Allah says, "Then take your brother by the hand and lead him into paradise." This part of the story is the most profound and impactful because not only does his forgiveness allow him to enter into this blissful, extraordinary experience of the garden, but it actually, by forgiving his brother, it allows his brother to enter the garden. This man who had no good deeds left, by being forgiven, he is actually able to enter the garden. And then the Prophet says, "Fear God and make peace among yourselves, because God will make peace among the faithful on the day of resurrection." So the Prophet is telling us, fear God, meaning do not wrong others. Do your best not to wrong others. And if you do, make peace here and now, because you do not want to have to go through it on that day, and peace will be made on that day. And that's why they say the hardest thing on Yawm al-Qiyamah is to deal with those you've wronged, because it is easy for Allah to forgive the ways you've fallen short in your worship of Him. But Allah is just, and so if you wrong others, Allah will bring justice. So take a few moments to reflect on forgiveness. Who are those people in your life that you struggle to forgive? Who are those people in your life that you want to ask forgiveness, but you struggle to ask forgiveness? What would it be like if you had the courage to ask forgiveness, if you had the vastness to give forgiveness? What if it was only that inability to forgive or to ask forgiveness that was holding you back from the garden? So take a few moments and to write about forgiveness. If there's someone in your life that you feel you've struggled to forgive, or that you know you want to ask forgiveness to, then write that person a letter. You don't have to intend to give it to them. the most important thing as a first step is actually to write it and to say exactly what you truly want to say. Whether you give it, that is a decision to make later, but you're just writing this for your own heart, for your own self, between you and Allah. So take a moment and write that letter of forgiveness and reflect on the story of these two men, the story that made the Prophet laugh and the Prophet weep. May Allah allow us to forgive others and be those who forgive, and be those who are easy and quick to ask forgiveness when they make mistakes, so that we can be forgiven by Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.